Joining me right now is Joe Lieberman. He is former Connecticut senator, former vice presidential candidate, and United Against Nuclear Iran chairman. Senator, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria.
You've
good
been
to be back.
Around the block a couple times in terms of elections. Tell us about your reaction to this last night.
A divided country politically expresses itself in a divided way. Republicans not only hold the Senate, but build their majority, could go as high as 54. Democrats retake the House. You might say that's what usually happens with the party that's out in a midterm election, but they did pretty well, and there are some messages there for the Republicans and the president, particularly in how well the Democrats seem to do in suburban areas.
What's your take in terms of what happens now? Will this new Congress work well or not well with the president? Tell us what you see in the next 2 years, given the success in the Senate for the Republicans.
Right. So it is totally different now. I mean, let's say the president's most significant legislative accomplishment of the first 2 years was the tax reform, tax cuts. Those would not pass in the new Congress, not as they were. The Democrats in the House would negotiate for change. On the other hand, if the Democrats in the House try now to repeal those tax cuts, that's not going to happen either, because the president won't allow it, the Republicans in the Senate won't. So gridlock is not inevitable. Gridlock is a choice that people make, and there's going to be differences of opinion, but the question is, can the president and the Democrats in the House particularly find some areas of common ground? They've got to agree on a budget, or else the government shuts down, and that's not good for anybody, certainly not good for the country. So we'll see. I liked the president's tweet this morning, and I'm going to take it at face value.
In terms of Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah.
Well, do you think she's going to be Speaker? Because a lot of people want that job. I spoke with Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan this weekend on Sunday Morning Futures. He tried to unseat her recently, and I asked him about the potential for him being Speaker. Here's what he said. After the 2016 election, you wanted to unseat Nancy Pelosi to become Speaker of the House. Are you running for Speaker of the House this time?
We got a couple more days. There are a number of candidates that are having conversations, that are talking about running. I will say it's not going to be a coronation. Somebody is going to run for leadership. I think it's important that we have this discussion and have this conversation. I think the American people want to change. I think a lot of Democrats want to change. Right. And so we're going to have that discussion starting on Wednesday. And let's hope we're having a conversation about Speaker of the House and not leader of the minority party in Congress. But there's a lot of conversations happening right now. People from across the country, different candidates, right, different demographics, who are talking about running for that leadership.
So he dodged the question on the question on whether or not he's going to run, but she's not going to give it up.
She's not going to give it up. And, you know, Nancy is a liberal Democrat from San Francisco, but everybody has to remember that her dad was the practical Democratic mayor of Baltimore a long time ago. She's a very effective politician. So I put my money on Nancy Pelosi to be elected Speaker. She might make some moves to bring some of this new generation in the Democratic caucus into the leadership. That would probably be a smart thing to do.
Do you think, I mean, we're going to see investigations on the House side because they've already said what they want to do, investigate President Trump. Does that help the president come 2020?
It could. I mean, really, it depends on whether the Democrats in the House who are investigating, are issuing subpoenas to the administration, are sensible and disciplined about it. If it just seems to be attack President Trump at everything he does, it's not a constructive agenda, ultimately. There'll be some of that. That's oversight. That's Congress's responsibility. But Democrats have to come up with an affirmative program. And for the president and Democrats, it would be great to find a couple areas they can agree on. In my opinion, the most likely is infrastructure reform, support in both houses. I think it's possible, if they're willing to let it go as a political issue, they could also agree on immigration reform, and that would be great for the country. The president could get his wall, and a good one, a strong one, and rules for how you come in here. But the Democrats could get DACA and some of the other immigration reform pieces that they want.
I mean, you would think that they should work together, that they would want to work together. That's what the American people want. I mean, if there's just fighting and nothing gets done,
I agree.
Really unproductive.
I want to say a word about something I've been involved in. There's a group called No Labels that works. You're not a Democrat or Republican label, liberal, conservative. We're Americans. Let's work together. We raised.
And you're actually supporting some Republicans in that group.
Yeah, I mean, we raised. It's an untold story. We raised over $15 million, invested in about 27 House races. Pretty equal number of Republicans and Democrats. Problem solvers, some conservatives, some liberals, some moderates. We won, as of this morning, 21 of the 27, lost 4, and 2 are undecided. And interestingly, of the 4 we lost, 3 were moderate Republicans in suburban districts, Republicans who were not particularly pro-Trump. They lost to moderate Democrats. So there's a core group that's going to want the Democratic House leadership and I think the Republican leadership to figure out ways to work together to solve some problems instead of fighting for the next 2 years.
You would think, given that's what the people want.